Easy ye, how are we?
Shawnee, under a bit of pressure.
Is this running pressure? Is this? Oh, actually, do you know what this could be? I might have to scratch Easy E because I have to change your name to EF Lawless here because your literary skills is getting put into newspapers. You know, the people don't know this, but you're the man with the pen when it comes to the Wall of Fame, and you finally put our Fantastic Four in, and all of a sudden I get a notification that Tipperary Live is put in, and they were lazy. They put in a couple of paragraphs deep and they went, here's what was said on the website. And the rest of it's all you, sir. Did you get commission for that?
Yeah. Do you know what? I am so happy. My English teacher told me I'd amount to nothing. Well, I'll tell you, Tipperary Live has other opinions about my Wall of Fame entries. But yeah, it's Aoife, actually, funny enough, was asking me all like in the run up to Christmas. I kept saying, I'll do it. But I knew I wanted to write something about each of them. But I didn't want to just do the general and this, that, and the other. I wanted to have a bit of fun with it. And eventually last week was like, okay, now is the time. The time is now. So I spent a bit of time doing the Wall of Fame and the updates on the websites and a couple of blogs. They all loved it, and I was like, haha. And then you sent me a link, Tipperary Live. I was like, oh, you may tell your English teacher to that. So yeah,
I love that. I read it. I was like, this is good. And then all of a sudden, I start catching strays in about Aoife giving out to me and stuff. And I'm like, well, like it's this about Aoife. It's not about me. How am I catching strays?
All of these stories were like loosely based on a true story. You know, it's like the Forrest Gump movies. You know, but yeah, it was good. Yeah, it was good to see the little article making it in Tipperary Live. Was it?
I think it was Tipperary Live. Oh, I could be wrong. I think it said Tipperary Live. I don't know.
Now,
or
in
Live.
In my teacher's defense, my punctuation is shocking. Anyone who texts me knows that. So thank God for spell check. And punctuation check. But it's it was nice. It was a nice feeling to see him. No one else read me other blogs. They're bloody terrible. But so far they're so good. So far so good.
You've found a new path in this world, but that's not what has you under pressure, is it? Is something else that has you under pressure?
No, it's the whole running thing, Sean.
The whole running thing is it? Yeah. The whole podcast of running has it. But I can talk about other people that make blogs on it and do okay on that.
Yeah, look, it is. We're getting closer to. I had my first of many, I'd say. For the last few weeks, I'm like, it's a marathon. It's a marathon. I had my moment today where I was like, shit. Do I even bother doing it? I just got to this stage today. I was like, why do I do this to myself every time? But yeah, we still have a bit of work to do. Yeah, look, it's an enjoyable experience. As I said in a couple of episodes previous, the journey is getting a little bit more enjoyable, and that is when the doubt is starting to come in now. It's like, this is too enjoyable. So, but I haven't done anything long, and I think part of being part of the group and seeing people doing long runs when, like, I can't keep my heart rate less than 170 for an hour here. You know, even when you go in on the treadmill, I can extend it for maybe 15, 20 minutes longer than I can outside. So I might get an hour and 15 running, but then it just goes to the 170s and it's just game over at that point. So I'm trying my best in the start, but I'm nervous. I am nervous. But look, still a bit of time to go. Plenty of time to put some mileage into the legs and make sure we can get through it injury free.
I think that last sentence is key, and that's the key for me. It's getting through injury free. It's just putting miles in the legs. The idea of PBs and stuff like that for me is out the window. And it's like when I don't run, I miss 1 or 2 runs this week with the weather. That's a poor excuse.
Well, I'm saving €3 a week now just so I can buy Monroe's bucket of beer. So I've already committed to the heavy savings just to get them off my back now, and because I know we'll go sub 330, I won't be chasing them.
At this stage, you're not chasing that. No, it's too far. You'd only injure yourself, did something like that, and it's like, right,
well, we'll
build
see
on
him
towards
again.
the rest of the year.
We'll see him again at another time.
Eric, we've had a couple of DMs on Instagram. Some people are very happy this week, some aren't happy this week. But the process was clear. But people want to know, did you put your name in for the Dublin Half Marathon? The ballot went down over this past week for that one.
No.
No. Moving on. The New York
Yeah.
Marathon Balance coming up
Oh,
this week. I think.
I thought it was. I thought I gave my honest assessment. It wasn't about the €4. They're giving the €4 back. So well done to
They are
Dublin
giving it back, yeah.
for listening to everyone, and I do appreciate that they took on board some of the criticism and it came back, and it's I think it's fair. But again, for me, it was about price. There's some great half marathons out there, and but I understand, it's a Dublin City Marathon. It's a big marathon. There's road I
Yeah.
100% get the price, but for me, it's I just need to be a little bit more tactical in when and what races and then what value, and that's what I said. For me, it's I this is gonna sound a bit. There's great half marathons, like there's one in Ratoath, for example, is a fantastic half marathon, and there's a few others, and I can do them for half the price and have a really good experience. So for me, it's at that level of a race where I don't feel like I need to do it for that
You've
price.
also done it at that price
I've done
already.
it
So it's
once.
kind of
I've
like,
done
what?
it.
There's no, yeah. I was the
Yeah.
same. I was like, I've done it. I think I need to do other goals and stuff now. It's kind of like, if it came up and I think it came on my lap, would I take it? Absolutely. But it's, this is gonna sound cheesy, big headed. But like, let someone else do it in the battle. So I was kind of like, I've done it already. It's not the marathon to me. It was a great. I really enjoyed the race. I even that Clontarf bit that people give out about. I got lucky that when it was narrow at that stage, I hadn't got people in front of me. But just going through Northside and all the rest, and something completely different.
Oh yeah,
and
it was.
a
It
great
was
day.
nice. It was different.
It was.
You're a lot nicer to me. If I'm entering a ballot, I hate everyone else. No, well, let someone else get it. No one had that feeling for me for the marathon, Sean. But
I would
no,
have felt
look,
the same as the marathon.
it is, and I think it was one of those that we did it. There are a lot of great races in the half distance. There's a marathon. There are marathons around the country that are great marathons as well, but they're fewer than what you can get in halves and 10Ks and 10 milers, and and I think I'd like to be involved in some of the shorter ones. I really enjoyed Dunshaughlin. I'm just home. Do I want to put all my eggs into the half marathon and then not do other races because I want to do it right? Like, it's, for me,
Yeah.
it's the economics of it that I just probably have to pick and choose a little bit more. I'd rather get 2 or 3 more local races in for the price of one, if that makes sense.
We've had too many people in the podcast that tell us after marathon, go back a distance and slowly build up, not to finally take their advice on it. And only that I've signed up for all these other things after Dublin. Not that I regret doing Dublin, but it definitely, I was like, I hate like the body afterwards leading into everything else. And it was just, it stems from Dublin. And you've said many, many times in the podcast, you have to respect the marathon, and just, after, you can't just go marathon. So I'm looking forward to after. I'm going to build my mileage for the next couple of months. PBs out the window, whatever I get, enjoy it, pull back a little bit, not get injured, and then throughout the summer, then start small and build towards trying to make a decent go at Dublin, because I haven't made a decent go at Dublin in years in my book. New year, new me. So I'm making new things happen right now. After my run, I must have an ultra pure Epsom salts bath, rich in pseudomagnesium, and feels great after a long session. Oh, but you need to run first. So I know where you're going with that, Eric. And when my muscles ache, I haven't got time for a bath like you. So I'm having their ice cold menthol gel, instant cooling relief, and it helps me get ready for the next one. Yeah, but I could have that, but if I'm on the go, I also want to have the essential oil muscle rub on as well. I know where you rub that on. Stop it. I know you're going to go with that. So stop it right now. So I'm going straight to the finish. Exactly. New year, new goals, and muscle recovery support that works. And it actually is really good for you, despite what I'm saying here. But I'm not having you abuse me in 2026. So do your little outro you normally do.
It's like you're in my head, but by listening to this advert, you are supporting this Irish podcast and Irish businesses. Do take a look at the Ultra Pure range online and this great value bundle and save 10% on ultrapurelabs.ie. Yeah, and look, it's setting the proper goals, I suppose, for me. probably the first year. Like Barcelona Marathon isn't about me; it's about the 50 people that are traveling with us, and that's always the case with Barcelona. And I'm going to be honest, I'd happily not do the marathon and make sure everyone else had a good time. Do you know?
Yeah.
Like it's not about me, and I don't necessarily. This is going to sound a bit mad. Like some people and some great athletes come on here can do a PB effort and then they can run home. You know, I can't. I'll do a
No.
PB effort and that's me done. And I don't necessarily. I'd love a PB. Don't get me wrong. I know I'm not fit enough to get it, so it's a happy cop out to say. I just want to make
Yeah.
sure everyone has a good time. But at the same time, it's very difficult to lead a group and put that pressure on myself. So I'm kind of glad I'm not in a position to do it. But then I think the best year I had was when I went into the triathlon side and did a bit more cycling and swimming, and that complemented my running a hell of a lot. And I think for me, this year is about getting back into that and falling back in love with that element again. And if I can get into Dublin, I'll do Dublin 100%. I'll break someone's leg, get the old shotgun through the letterbox so I can get a handover of a ticket. But it's, I'd like you, I'd like to have that as my target for the year with a couple of I'd love to do, you're probably going to think I'm mad, the last time I did Lost Sheep I had to sleep in the back of a van for 3 hours. I'd like to go and do Lost Sheep again.
You said that was one of the hardest, most like I seen videos of you that you suffered, pal.
Yeah, it was horrible. That's why I want
I
to
do
do it
think you're
again.
mad. What? Okay, I do understand that element of it, but this year,
Yeah, I think so. I think if I want to have a goal for this year, actually it depends on the date. I could be away, so I have to look at the date of it. But something like it's at the end of the triathlon season. It mightn't work out for me this year. I could be away, but if I manage to, I'd love to have that as a goal. I'd love
right?
to take on what I think is probably one of the hardest races you can do. As a from February to September, I've been like, yeah, there's all these other things you want to do, but that's where I want to be, and if I can come through that, oh, I should be in a good position for Dublin. Like
Yeah,
it's that kind of thing. I want to kind of set a goal for myself because I really loved that year where I was under pressure for the Ironman. I'd done Lost Sheep and I struggled, and I'd like to give myself more time. And instead of having an Ironman at the end of it, have the Lost Sheep because I personally, I don't know. I think that was one of the hardest days I've had.
yeah.
Um, and and it annoyed me. It really, really, really annoyed me. For every reason, the hills, the cycle, it was so impressively hard. And then to get back in the van, I slept in for 3 hours to drive back to work to do a shit. I didn't enjoy any element of it. And thankfully, Katie came with me. I'd like to actually go and enjoy the experience of it and spend probably a weekend down there, bring the camper van, get me license for the camper van. That's that's the next goal, so I can drive the camper down. So yeah, it'd be good. Be telling everyone to get in the van. So yeah, so that's probably as we look to the goals. So yeah, the marathon, just get through and use it as a good foundation. Learn how to swim again. Learn what a bike is again, and yeah, just piece by piece. But I'm letting someone else take the wheel, and that's why I've joined the club. I've joined Nace Triathlon
Nice.
Club. Yeah, I'll just show up. I'll do the scary thing, and even now with a podcast and meeting people, rocking down on the first day, I'm like, hello. I don't like it. I really
Yeah, I'm the
don't.
same.
For a very outgoing person, I do have that little bit of awkward feel. More so because of my fitness. It's the same thing about you know I want to learn how to be a boxer before I go down to the boxing club.
Mm.
I want to be better in the pool, but it's just not going to happen. So I'm just going to rock down and go, all right, I can give you 2 lengths, nothing more, nothing less. And I will do them for an hour and I'll see you next week. So that's the plan, and see if I can slot back in and meet people, be social and get out there with run clubs. Park run as well is going to be another big part of my week, I think, or various different club events. I'd like to just rock up to places for that element of I have to be there at 9 or whatever time they start at. I can do a bit of a run before, a bit after. So yeah, I'm looking forward to doing those little elements every so often and getting involved with them again.
Well, setting all this kind of stuff up in a couple of weeks and come back. But just before that, you've been working hard behind the scenes, and all of a sudden you're sending the AGR crew up north. What's going on this weekend, Eric?
Yes, this weekend yous are all going to be the fruits of my labour. No, the
What am I doing?
the Any Given Run, they are going on tour. So the Northern Ireland Running Show is on, as you'll hear in our ads, and has been over the last few weeks. We are big part of the event. Sean will be on stage with a couple of our previous guests for the fireside chats on both Saturday and Sunday. We will have a stall there telling all the good tales, and I think we're going to have a little be on a podcast moment for a few people there. So if you do see our stall, do pop by. We'll give you your 2 minutes of fame, nothing more, nothing less. It's exciting. It's the first one on the island. It's new for everyone. It's exciting for us. We've never been part of an expo before, so there's a lot to be doing. But in fairness, the organisers have been so good to us and having us on board. Our 2 sponsors are going to be there. There's going to be all sorts there: food, drinks, samples, you name it. So it's going to be an exciting time for all of you fuckers.
You're just a puppet with the strings for us behind the scenes.
And with the strings, yeah.
I just see the emails coming in. I'm like, could you imagine? I am doing that. Okay, cool.
Yeah,
right. This should be fun.
I miss it by 2 days. And I have to say, I do have FOMO. I would have loved genuinely, I think it'd be a great weekend. So yeah, it's good. We have a stall, we have everything, and looking forward to seeing people there. Those who are listening and registered clubs, you are running out of time. I've sent emails to people who have registered their clubs for your tickets. So if you have an email in your inbox, have a look. If you don't have an email and you're interested in going, please represent your clubs. Log on to our website, anygivenrunday.com, register your interest, and we will do our best to get you your complimentary tickets for your club to go and attend.
Yep. This week's episode is I love the nutrition episodes, and the one thing I always come away from this is that nutrition hasn't changed all that much in the decades that it's been around, and yet I still learn new things from this. But it's especially this time of year, the constant, I'm going to go ahead and say all the fear mongering and stuff over ingredients and different kind of things you should and shouldn't do and all the rest, and going in the weeds in this thing instead of the big picture stuff. Like afterwards we did this episode, I was driving along, I was like, should have asked her about this, should have asked about this, and this keeps coming up and this coming up. So it's one of those where we definitely need a part 2, but this is a really enjoyable listen. There's definitely a lot to take away from this episode of the podcast.
Yeah, it always is. It's always great to get the expertise on. We talk about things and guests can talk about things, and everyone has their own way of doing things, but it's nice to bring in the expertise and humble us every time. And next year and part 2, we still won't do it now. It is great. It is great to get the insights and be reminded of where we are and what we should be doing and when we should be doing it. So again, a great episode for all those looking for nutrition tips and tricks for marathons and everything else in between. This is the episode for you.
And with that said, it's this week's episode of the Any Given Run Day podcast. Let's go. Our next guest on the Any Given Run Day podcast is a performance nutritionist and nutritionist for Wicklow GAA, UKAD, Clean Sport Advisor, and founder of Halo Nutrition, Leah Headon. Welcome to this week's episode of the Any Given Run Day podcast. How are you getting on?
Not too bad. Thanks so much for having me, lads.
Sean's from Wicklow, and he doesn't know a lot about nutrition. Is it filtering down to the local population? Because there's a man who needs a lot of help.
We don't know much about GAA either on my end, so...
I just see opportunity here.
Yeah, you are very welcome to the podcast this week. And as we start every episode, before we get into the nutritional side of things, we would like to know a little bit about you. Where did you get into sport? Why choose performance nutrition? And what is it you do for fun yourself?
Yeah, I guess my path to performance nutrition wasn't straight by any means, shape, or form. I actually ended up studying communication studies in college, so it was very much radio, TV, photography. Very much ignored who I was as a person when I went down choosing my career path. My whole life from such a young age, like my mum used to have to put chairs on tables to stop me climbing on things. I'd be bouncing on trampolines left, right, and centre. Anything I could do to move, I'd do it. I still do. Much to the annoyance of many people around me, but
Well, your
I
mom,
always
your
loved
mom must hate putting the chairs on the kitchen table still.
God. You had no idea. People would call to the house and be like, What's going on?" They'd be like, Leah." But I think it was very much, I guess, bed into me from a young age. You know, movement is health. At the age of 4, I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. I guess things have advanced a lot in the last couple of years. But, you know, at that age, it was you couldn't eat if your bloods were high, so you had to move to get them down. You can imagine that was, I guess, both a good thing and a bad thing. You know, you can develop a very unhealthy relationship with movement and with food when you're being told one equals the other, you know. So I guess I had a lot of experiences at a young age learning about my body, learning about energy management, learning about movement, how it impacts your energy, how to recover. But then, like, as a young kid, all you want to do is play with the kids around you and, you know, get involved in sport. I used to play Gaelic, I do gymnastics, and right up until I got to secondary school, I was told all my cousins were joining hockey, so you're going to do hockey too. And I was going, God almighty, another one. You know, my weekly timetable was getting pretty full with all the different sports, never mind climbing on the table at dinner time. But then I got into hockey. I think I got one compliment from the coach and I was sold. So I playing hockey then all throughout secondary school, you know, going for trials at Leinster and just being competitive, but also, I guess, not maybe being attentive to the fact that I was so driven, but maybe my relationship with exercise is a bit distorted. My relationship with my nutrition was a bit distorted because at the end of the day, I was probably running away from, you know, I guess the real kicker there in the background, which was minding and taking care of my diabetes. So at the age of 16, then I was diagnosed with eating disorder. Got a lovely psychologist who I worked with. And then through that, I guess I really developed a graw for trying to understand nutrition a bit better, wanting to know a little bit more about it, wanting to understand the relationship between fueling and performance, fueling and recovery, and then also developing a healthy relationship with it. Still, I guess I'd sold myself the idea that I wanted to get into media. I wanted to get into, you know, radio, TV, film, all of that. But sure, I spent most of my course in the gym. I was watching all the AT&T students coming in, the sports science students, and I was like, all I want to do is study. You know, study sports science and change. So come second year, I was like, Mum, Dad, like, please, can I swap? And they were like, absolutely not. No way.
Oh, wow.
Right through. You go, yeah. Fair play to them. They made me go through something I didn't want to go through, but you know, in a good way, because it really made me really passionate about, I guess, picking up my socks and carving out my own path when it came to nutrition and it came to learning in that space. So, I went on to do a load of short courses just to test it out, try it out, see what it was like. I did precision nutrition, which is like a coaching course.
Yeah, I've done that one. It's really good, actually.
It's really good. I like the visuals behind it. So very much, I guess, intertwining communications end of things, visual, with nutrition and health. And the way it was delivered, you probably know yourself, Eric, the way it's delivered to you, it's very immersive and engaging. So that made me really passionate about wanting to do more in this space, wanting to know how the body worked. So I studied personal training, like a large majority of people these days now, personal training, but went on and then did life coaching. So it was personal leadership and executive coaching. Just off the bat, then thinking about how do you make people change their behaviors, because that's a big part of nutrition. And then finally went on to do my postgrad in performance nutrition. And I'm now back in UCD doing a master's in food nutrition and public health. So a long winding path to actually get to where I am today as a registered sports nutritionist. And I don't think I would have had it any other way.
It's just because we've had this before on the podcast, and probably long-term listeners and listen to that last part there. A registered sport nutritionist. So you've letters against you're accredited. You've letters on your name on this one. So you've more backing into what you say for the nutrition side of things, and you talk a lot about just the mind for nutrition more so, and communication in itself. One thing that we haven't really talked too much on podcast is gut health and that relationship between the gut and nutrition, the brain and all the rest. What is gut health? Is this just a fancy internet term, or is there more to this?
No, great question. Gut health, like I guess, this topic, like you say, over the last couple of years has exploded. The research in it's still developing. UCC are doing loads of work in this space. Professor John Cryan is doing a lot of work in the research in this space, and we're still learning more and more. Now we're seeing how it's connected to other areas in our body, like the estrobolome, which is the estrogen and microbiome related. So women are a little bit different when it comes to gut health versus men. The relationship then between like our muscle microbiome, the cross connection and cross talk between those two organs, the gut brain axis as well. I'm sure you've heard a lot about food and mood and how most of our serotonin is produced in our gut. So it's huge. But now we're really starting to see, I guess, the benefits to athletes when it comes to looking after their gut health and being a niche population in terms of physical stress on their gut. The difference between the types of sports as well, like consuming foods on the bike is very different to consuming foods when you're running. The jostling and the impact then on digestion. The use of painkillers, especially if people are, suffering with an injury and then going on to try and train through that and get through their training and then ending up with things called leaky gut, as we say, which is where, you get a little bit more inflammation and GI disturbances and stress. I think it's something like 30 to 70% of athletes suffer with some sort of GI stress. So it's a huge topic, and there's so many different corners to it as well. Yeah.
Where do you start that one to go
That
through
was
it?
my question. Where do you start? So if we're sitting down, and I hope I'm not taking away from Sean, but a lot of
No.
people, and I'm asking this from not researching, I'm thinking, first of all, how do I is there a checklist that we can put in front of me and I can go, okay, maybe I need to look at this, or maybe I didn't consider. Is there like not a 5-point plan, or but a couple of things that you need to look at with yourself and what you're doing, or maybe some key symptoms that these 30 to 70% of people are seeing that I now need to go, maybe I'm one of them.
Yeah. I guess like leaving out, say, intolerances and allergies, things that we would know. Maybe you've been diagnosed with IBS or with Crohn's disease and you have gone through the clinical path. If you're noticing, I guess, keeping a checklist diary in and around your training and you're noticing symptoms showing up in and around your training, maybe it's the nutrition that you're going into your training with. Or if you're noticing, particularly during high stress times, that you do get more gas or bloating or, diarrhea or whatever it is, if you're noticing those symptoms, it's worth keeping a diary and tracking that over a period of time and trying to see if there's a cross correlation between acute interventions and then the impact that's having on your digestion. I think one thing that we all suffer with is eating on the go, eating too fast, not focusing on what we're eating.
Yep. I'm like a Labrador. I'm telling you can't stop me.
Yeah. Really. It's for all the world, like being in a meeting, but also being on your phone and like trying to absorb the information that the speaker is given to you in the meeting, but you're also, talking to somebody else on the phone. Your gut, your brain, they're so interconnected that when you're actually visually taking in the information from the food you're consuming, that's preparing your gut for the digestion and the absorption of those nutrients. So slowing down and being more mindful at those meals, easier said than done, but if you can practice it and make it a habit and something that you honor, particularly if you do suffer with gut issues or problems in that space, that's a really, really important kind of behavioral tool to look at. From a nutritional point of view, I'm sure you've heard of all probiotics and, this supplement and that supplement and this, that and the other. And there is research to say that, like, I guess the probiotics in some cases help and others it can actually make things 10 times worse. You're introducing these strains of, gut bacteria that can actually end up causing dysbiosis, so an imbalance in the different varieties of microbes that are in your gut. There's thousands of species. Introducing another of the same that this already overpopulated with can actually end up causing more gas and more bloating. So I'd say coming back to kind of the fundamentals around your diet, making sure that you're eating your fruits and your vegetables, adding in diversity, so polyphenols, lots of kind of dark blue and purple, like berries, really, really rich in polyphenols that help to reduce inflammation. Your fermented foods, like your sauerkraut, kimchi, kefir, all really good. Some of those yogurts, those live yogurts that are enriched with probiotics as well, really, really good for your gut health. So simply kind of trying to diversify and increase the variety at your meals is a good way of improving and supporting your gut health.
Psst, Sean.
Yes.
We're going on an adventure. I'll pack your bags.
God.
We are going to the Northern Ireland Running Show this February 7th and 8th, Saturday and Sunday. We'll be there along with our sponsors. So many of the goodies and gadgets you never get to eat, try and play with as you get ready for a marathon. It's Ireland's first running expo. We'll be there doing interviews. There'll be so many great guests and entertainment on the day. It is all that we want, food and drink-wise, everything there for the family on the day. And you can look it up on anygivenrunday.com or the Northern Ireland Running Show. If you are a club member and looking for 2 free tickets for your club, please reach out to us on Instagram or send us a message and leave your details on www.anygivenrunday.com. And let's get back to this week's episode.
Why are we whispering?
Psh, it's a holiday.
From endurance perspective, you'll go for the long run and stuff like that. Maybe it's just me, would tend to go for something real quick and maybe ultra processed. So maybe a bowl of cereal, or maybe Eric maybe be guilty of a few jellies and stuff like that. That kind of more ultra processed stuff, how does that affect not only performance but mood when you're looking at days of trying to have, let's say you're going for your long run, whatever that may be, and you're just trying to get the calories in? Is there a point where that becomes a negative effect of having so much ultra processed thing? Is that really that bad of a thing?
You're so well ahead of the research there, Sean. Like, there's so much still needs to be done.
That's the biggest compliment I've gotten in 312 episodes of the podcast. That is it for this episode. I'm on a high. I'm leaving. I'm hanging up.
That's it for this week's. I'm not listening to this anymore. If you saw this man in his everyday life, to turn around and say he's ahead of the research, oh my God, I already know this is going to be a reel.
Don't even know the question anymore. That's going ahead real there.
There's going to be no
You told me,
information
Eric,
out
he's
of
a
this
Wicklow
reel.
man. I got to give him a compliment.
Oh my God. Leah, you've ruined my day. But anyway, come on, say something good about Sean.
So there's literally, I think, only 1 or 2 papers that have come out in the last couple of years on this, UPF, so ultra processed foods and athletes as such. And I think this is like I say, a space where there's so much more research to be done in terms of the long-term health impacts on your overall digestion, your metabolic health, your blood glucose regulation, your cholesterol levels, all of this off the back of UPFs. So when we talk about UPFs, ultra processed foods, them being things that have additives added to them. So high fat, high salt, high sugar, but also emulsifiers and different stabilizers and all of that will be considered ultra processed foods. So it's not like you're going to be able to make them up in the kitchen too early. Now, in the context of an athlete's diet and they're performing, we think about blood flow to the gut. It's reduced. It's shuttled out to work in muscles, thermoregulation. So our digestive capacity is somewhat reduced. So we need things that digest fast and quick, absorbed quickly across the small intestine into the bloodstream and fuel those sessions. However, there are times where still the amount we've consumed still sits in our GI system after we finished exercising. So the ill effects of those, remaining contents in the gut can actually start to cause some issues in terms of our metabolic health, according to the research that we have to date. There could be more research down the line to contradict that or, to give us a different outcome. But things that have been shown are things like increased inflammation, increased resting glucose levels, some endurance athletes showing up with pre-diabetes. So that's where their baseline glucose level is just a little bit higher than desirable. And that impacts on overall cardiovascular health there too. So yeah, it's context specific. Where and when possible, trying to go as natural as you can. If possible, I hate telling anybody what to do, but just in terms of overall long-term metabolic health, going for things like dried fruit, going for, your bananas and your regular kind of dates and things like that as well in terms of fueling sessions, where and if possible. Obviously, if you're going into ultra endurance and we're looking to get in as much carbohydrate as we can for as long as possible, you are probably going to have to start supplementing with your gels or your, your mixes, your dual sources of glucose and fructose carb sources there. But just, being mindful of it. And then obviously on the days where you're not training, really upping your overall prebiotics and your good healthy foods to support recovery there if you can. Yeah.
So saying that could actually scare me into being like, am I really chewing all these gels? But obviously they work. The sugar hit works, the caffeine hit works. How do we manage it? Because even now we would say as part of your training, and a lot of the advice is practice with the gels before the race day and practice with this. How do you take the fear out of, if I use these gels and I do 4 marathons a year, I'm screwed. I'm putting myself on a trajectory of bad health, bad gut health, and you're not setting yourself up too well for all the reasons you've just said. How do we manage, I suppose, the necessity and take away some of the fear and kind of recognize that we're fueling the jet for this very specific purpose? And how do you manage it?
That's a great question, Eric. And the last thing I want to hear is anybody ever feeling scared around foods. Like I say, you get scared, nervous system goes into stress, and then you're going to get the ill effects of any kind of foods you're eating, healthy or not healthy. So, in terms of managing, I guess, ultra processed foods or sports foods in and around competition windows, I guess being really specific, like looking at your training plan, knowing what your key sessions are, practicing your fueling on those key sessions at high intensity rates, making sure that you're using those fuel sources for those sessions that are going to demand them the most, right? You've got a low aerobic run, like a low volume, easy run. You're not going to be needing to shuttle down a load of gels or needing to drink, your Morton mixes or your hydrofuels or whatever it is. But for those key sessions in the context of your whole year, like it's very minute, so it's not going to have the impact, that consuming them daily, day in, day out would have. And especially if you're not exercising. But yeah, I'd say definitely that would be kind of my approach to take with it. But again, I'm going to lean on the research as it continues to evolve and grow. But main thing is no fear, not to be scared, just to be informed and intentional with your fueling.
So now we're not scared. We're fueling more. It is just after Christmas, and I fueled with that cereal's filled with Baileys over the Christmas. So I've put on a few kilos to say the least on that one.
Few.
But this beer's come up a lot right now. So what I want to do is I want to get back running more. So I want to go 3-4 times a week running. I'm gone from little to a lot more running. I want to fuel those runs as well. But I don't want to fuel too much, Leah, because I want to lose a few kilos. But I need a fuel for it, but I want to lose weight. And a lot of people are in that dilemma right now. And I'm assuming when you do like pre-season training with Wicklow GAA, that like they might, a couple of months off, they're not as active, so they may put on a few pounds. But at the same time, pre-season is pretty much, well, back in the day, it was here's a football, you're not seeing it for 6 weeks, you're going for runs and more runs and 5K trials and all the rest. How do you balance that, wanting to lose that bit of weight, even though we're told not to, fueling? How do you work that?
Yeah. In terms of weight loss and performance, we always say try and target your weight loss, your body and I'm going to say weight loss, fat loss more than weight loss in the off season, right? That's the best time where demands aren't too high on the body. And pushing that maximally out to the early preseason. If you find yourself in the second half of preseason wanting to recomp or lose that body fat percentage, you've probably left it a little bit too late and too far into entering into the competition season without, I guess, posing a risk to injury, immunity, overall power output, your endurance capacity. But I will say that you can be intentional and focused on doing it around in a specific, I guess, modified way. So looking at a moderate calorie, first of all, finding your baseline. Then looking at kind of a moderate calorie reduction, so 200 to 300 calories per day. Again, looking at your week and identifying your key sessions in the week, communicating with your coach and identifying which ones you're looking to get the most output and adaptation from. Fueling really intentionally in and around those, looking at your pre-performance, mid-performance, post-performance fueling, and having that nailed and down to a T. And then in your recovery days or your rest days, again, going back to high quality foods, making sure that they're filling high in fiber, high in healthy fats, high in protein, particularly in a calorie deficit state. You're trying to keep your protein high to make sure that you're staying satiated, so staying full, satisfied from your meals, supporting your recovery, and maintaining as much lean mass as possible to support your overall metabolic weight as you continue to drop a little bit of body fat. So that would be the approach I kind of take with it. In terms of what that might look like, I guess being mindful around your meals, making sure that you're planning them, that you're eating every 3 to 4 hours. The reason being is our food takes a little bit of time to digest. And if your blood sugars dip down too low because you've left it too long without eating, what ends up happening is your glucose stores in your muscles starts to kick energy out into the bloodstream, right? So you start to break down your glycogen, you break down your lean muscle tissue. So overall, you're going to end up continuing to stay at the same body fat percentage level, feeling hungry, reaching for those quick, convenient, high sugar or high fat foods that give you quick energy. So eating regularly, eating intentionally, eating with high quality foods on those rest days, and then fueling those key sessions is the approach I would suggest. Yeah.
Can I talk to you about the off-season? Like every time I'm on Instagram now, I get targeted for some sort of app for intermittent fasting and everything else. But I kind of want to go back to one that I found most interesting from what I read was not so much intermittent fasting, but kind of like, I'm not going to say long term, but the likes of a 36-hour fast. And in the context of gut health, through the concept of autophagy, which they can't really prove, but there was a Nobel Prize for the comparison to yeast and the human's DNA makeup and how it basically hunts the bad cells and tries to eradicate them. How do you feel about sessions like a 36-hour fast? And now, I'm not saying when you're in peak performance time, etc., probably on a slower day, or how do people avoid it? Well, like intermittent fasting is calorie restriction. It's not, you're giving yourself a window, and a lot of people, when they've only 4 hours to eat, there's only so much you can eat. But when you go longer term, what's your thoughts on that, and what's the research saying to you, and the advice you would give people who are interested in it?
Intermittent fasting is like still one of the most popular topics. People are still, I feel like it's like, those magazines back in the day and it would have like, get your bikini body. Now it's like, do your intermittent fasting. Like everyone wants to know about it. It has been very glamorized, I would say, in terms of a topic. And the benefits, like these keywords are, autophagy, and like to the general population, I guess we just really want to know how to eat a balanced diet and do that. Like 80% of people still aren't reaching their fiber needs. And I'd still come back to getting the basics right for health promotion before going into any kind of biohacking trends as such. In terms of if you are somebody who's like, hey, look, I'm really interested in this subject or this topic, I want to try it out. I want to see if I feel any benefits from it. I'm like, have at it, go for it. By all means, use yourself as an experiment, but understand yourself as an individual. And I guess what things in your own life it can exacerbate in a negative or in a positive way. So if you're going through a really high stress period in work, expect to feel a little lack of focus the next day when your body's hungry. Expect to be a bit distracted in the office. Maybe like, your body's naturally going to go back to looking for foods or hydration. So just thinking about when you're doing it, what else is going on in your life, what your training is looking like as well, and when's the best time for you. But I'd never tell somebody not to do something if they're interested and want to try it out. But I do it from a point of curiosity and a point where you can track the results, rather than, I guess, depending on what's being touted from the media as being something that everybody should be doing,
And I want to use myself as I ask because I struggle. After I did a good bit of training and a couple of marathons, I actually really became addicted to sugar. Like genuinely, like I hunt it. Like if there's chocolate in my fridge right now, and I've thought about it 20 times today, and particularly after Christmas or periods where I'm on vacation, I find it very hard to break the habit or the want. And for me, and this is again, as you say, as an experiment, I did try for the 36 hours. For me, my habits and my cravings begin to dissipate. Like, not even like half, like 4, 10 times, you name it. I lose that want. I'll always want chocolate. I'll always want the bad stuff, but I don't hunt it as much. And that's just one example for me when we talk about experimenting and like many runners do with different gels and stuff. But I went in knowing I had something and I was looking for certain key measurables. And then afterwards I was like, oh, I'm not craving chocolate at 7 o'clock in the morning and, all this kind of stuff. It is, I suppose, the important thing for people is, as you've said, try something, but know what you want out of it or see if it works for you.
Hydration is key to fueling endurance performance.
Perform Nutrition's Electrolytes Plus sachets have been specifically designed to fill the need for advanced hydration for athletes.
With 1,000 milligrams sodium, all essential electrolytes, and 2,500 milligram performance blend made up of glutamine, taurine, and coconut water powder, one sachet will replenish and revitalize your hydration.
Using natural flavors, natural colors, no added sugar, and no added fillers, each sachet has a sweet and lightly salted fruity flavor and comes in either mixed berry or citrus.
Informed, sport tested, and trusted by Olympians such as Kate O'Connor, world champion boxer Aoife O'Rourke, and pro triathlete Nikki Bartlett, and many more elite athletes.
Trust Perform to fuel your excellence, and by listening to this advert, you are supporting Irish businesses and this podcast. Now let's get back to the episode.
Exactly. And then also not to be bringing in too much bias as well. It's hard, you can't blind yourself into a study and actually, not know what the control is and not know what the exposure is when you're the one designing your own study here as well. So
no, I didn't, to give context, I didn't know that was going to be the outcome. I had tried it. I wanted to. I'd never done a fast. I was like, look, 36 hours, what's the worst that could happen? But the outcome of that for me was I noticed my cravings had gone down and a bit of bloating and whatever else. So for that 36, I felt really good. And afterwards for the week following as well. But, and again, it's a calorie restriction element. It's everything else. But yeah, it was for all those who were trying out. We are guinea pigs. Sean is ahead of the studies, but I'm still doing what was there 2 years ago.
Yeah. No, that's fair. It's natural as endurance athletes that we will crave sugar. Our body is running on carbohydrates as our main fuel source. So we're naturally going to be looking for it because that's what our body's used to metabolizing. Whereas if you go the complete opposite way and go low carb, high fat, your body's capacity to digest and absorb carbohydrates is somewhat limited. And therefore your cravings won't be as rich for that fuel source because your body prefers to use, high fat sources as its fuel source. In terms of then performance, the impact, your sprint capacity will be impacted by that because you need that quick turnover, your power output, and then maybe your long-term impact will be impacted by that if you are going to be following a low carb, high fat diet. But in terms of cravings and like you say, the hunt for sugar as such, definitely restricting your that gives your body a little bit of a chance to reset. Our natural insulin levels, that's a hormone that's produced in response to sugar intake. Our natural insulin levels, production of insulin at a baseline would be reduced when you're not introducing carbohydrates where it's going to have to shuttle that out. So it is, but again, it's sustainability. Did you reintroduce sugar back into your diet then?
Oh no, it's as soon as it's done, it's business as usual, and it's, I have my rice and I have my whatever. It's just, it's honestly, I'd be eating chicken and rice thinking there's chocolate there though. The chocolate, I could probably have chocolate before this, during this and after this, to a point where it's frustrating. But it's as in, it's not a case of I'm not eating for a week. It's a case of, okay, that's that done, and I can move on with a bit more discipline, I suppose, is the element of it.
Yeah, I personally find the psychology end of it really interesting because like we go back to cavemen times and what, like nobody wants to be running for hours looking for something to hunt down to eat, you know? So it's, what's the quickest source of energy we can get? And normally that is carbohydrates, like sugar, because it's straight into our bloodstream, straight spikes the blood glucose levels. So it's like when we are tired, or if we're going through a really tough time, like we're trying to get through a big assignment, or, you know, a load of things on our plate we got to get done. Sometimes we can procrastinate by eating sugar because it's like it's the easiest, I guess, reward we can get in the moment. That's from like obviously a psychological point of view. From a physiological point of view, not eating enough early on in the day, we can end up getting sugar cravings at nighttime then because we're trying to compensate for the lack of energy earlier on in the day. Or like poor sleep. If you're not sleeping well, your body is on a bit of an energy deficit as well. So like it's going to look for a little bit of a support or aid there as well. So it'll be sugar, caffeine, you know? Yeah.
One thing I heard recently on that, I'm afraid to ask a question now. I really think I've peaked in my questions, but was
you did.
What was hydration and stuff when it comes to sleep? That like when I've heard from some people, when you should get up, the first thing should be that glass of water straight away to kickstart the water trend right today. Does that have a big impact on it? And is there a magical kind of 3 liters of water to have throughout a day, or is that a myth, or what's the story with that?
So sorry, what was the first question there?
Sorry, just when I had a completely different train of thought, but just when you hit
were right,
the
Sean.
poor
You
sleep,
did
waking
peak.
up the next,
You
I
did
did peak. So when I wake up first thing in the morning, I go into work. I would just have a coffee, and I don't really need the coffee, but I just feel like it's just it's a coffee. It'll do something for me, and it's getting cold now. There's a bit of heat in my hands and all the rest before the session start, but am I better off having that pint of water first thing in the morning? But I've heard some people say, sure, you have a pint first thing in the water. By the time you go to work, it's going straight through you, and nothing's really happening from there. So you should have it like with meals and stuff throughout the day. Is there something to when you should have water throughout the day?
Yeah, like spacing it throughout the day is probably better because you're respiring, like you're breathing. And that's you're getting more dehydrated the more you're going throughout your day. So definitely spacing it. I would say gulping down like big. Say if you got up in the morning and you drank 3 liters and you're like, right, tick that box, I'm done for the day. That's okay. All right, absolutely doesn't have the same physiological benefit than if you space it throughout the day. Really important because drinking too much on the one go, we dilute our electrolytes. So that's like our sodium, our calcium, our magnesium, potassium. If we're drinking all too much in the one go, so that can actually have a bit of a negative impact in terms of your overall physiological feeling of wellness, but also functioning. So spacing it throughout the day is probably your best port of call. In terms of first thing when you get up in the morning, overnight, you haven't drank water for like 8 hours if you've had a good 8-hour sleep. So you're naturally just that little bit more dehydrated in the morning time. Can make you feel a little bit more sluggish coming into the day, make you feel cravings for sugar a little bit more because you're looking for that energy. Caffeine as well. So I will say caffeine does cause a little bit of an elevation in blood glucose as well. So probably getting in the water in the morning helps to, like our blood is like 80% water. So if our blood is more dehydrated, the concentration of glucose in our bloodstream will just be that bit higher if we don't have that water to help it flush through and get to our working muscles as such. So I would say in terms of do it as the Italians do, they always have their coffee with a glass of water and just go from there. Yeah.
That I did not know. Eric, you
There
could
you
talk
go.
about all your trips to Italy. You never told me that bit of advice. What's the point in having you as a friend? Switching up from my original train of thought there was a lot of what you're saying, if you're working with someone, is the first thing really mental habits for you in terms of instead of like what foods and breaking down diet plans and all the rest? A lot of you seem to work a lot more of I keep going back to the word habits more so, and the mental kind of thing. How much does that really play effect in dieting?
Yeah, I guess I'm interested because I think we need to be intentional when we're actually coming to doing anything. Like you're showing up to a nutrition consultation, you've made the decision to be there. You've made the decision to engage with the topic. There's a part of you that wants to make a change or a difference. And coaching is like that fundamental aspect behind making any kind of a change. Me as an expert, I can't make anybody do anything, but I can facilitate their thought processes around changing their habits with their nutrition or, picking up something different in the supermarket. but it has to come from their own personal want. And I think like we can have as much sports science and sports nutrition science out there the world can offer. But without actually knowing why somebody's doing it, how it fits in with them on an individual level, what their own personal lifestyle looks like, and what the outcome they want to get from it is, it's really important then I think for them to approach it from a behavioural point of view before even looking at, even buying anything or putting anything in place. But yeah, that's kind of the approach I like to take with it. Because I think in terms of longevity, understanding and being able to pull from that toolbox down the line again when they get stuck into the same situation. Like I always say, when someone leaves me, I want them to have left me forever. Because I'm like, if they come back to me, I haven't done a good job, have I? Because I haven't like facilitated their ability to work with the habits and behaviours that we hopefully can co-create together as such.
This is going to sound like I just did not listen to you for the last minute. So I'm going to try and make it as specific as I can to people listening. I'm going to be biased towards people doing the Barcelona Marathon here right now. For people doing spring marathon, stuff like that. Is there a very kind of general kind of these are the go-to thing for those doing running and marathon kind of training and they're building up their mileage and stuff right now? I know everyone's individual, but do you have kind of go-tos that you recommend for endurance runners that are building right now towards a marathon?
Yeah, I guess again I come back to those key sessions, making sure that you're getting your pre-fuel, testing out different types of fuels during your runs as well, seeing what sits, never try anything new on race day, making sure you're getting in your recovery. It's a guilty face there, yeah.
Yeah, I'll be called out if I didn't say it in the podcast. I'm guilty of that. So's Eric.
I did every time.
It's so common though. And like, the poor delusions at these marathons as well. Like, I mean, train your gut. If you can train anything, train your gut. Obviously our gut is like a muscle, the way our like quads are a muscle or our calves are a muscle. We can train it, but it takes time to, I think it's about 6 to 10 weeks and trying to do that around every key session, trying to increase your carbs at each of those sessions as your mileage builds as well, and making sure that your body is adapting and absorbing and able to tolerate that level of carbohydrates that are going to support your optimal performance then on race day.
6 to 10 weeks for that to build your gut?
Well, it can take 6 to 10 days, but realistically, nobody's going to be doing intense training sessions 6 to 10 days back to back to back to back.
Yeah, so you need that
spacing it over. Yeah, spacing it over 6 to 10 weeks is a more moderate way of doing it, and giving yourself the time. Yeah.
So would you say that if someone could show up and use something they've never tried before, that they have trained their gut so well, would you put that on a CV as a skill? I'm just trying to say, like, I've done it every time. I think it's a talent. When people look for their superhero skill, this stomach, it's
you can put it on a CV once my name's not going on that beside
Yeah, that's all right, Leah. Don't worry. When people are looking in, and we touched on caffeine a little bit, and as you correctly said, we train the gut, and in particular you mentioned earlier, and to highlight to people, it's training your gut when your heart rate is working, when your body has reduced the fuel. You're not just sitting on the couch, you're working hard. Because a lot of people are saying, I'm okay when I'm taking on board my sugars when I'm on the easy run. But when I'm doing the hard runs, I actually find I want to get sick, or I want to do, and that's the kind of key thing for people, is to practice. And a point you've alluded to over many points, but just to bring it together. So to touch on fueling during and also caffeine, how do people manage this? Because this is always one of the biggest questions we have when people are looking for nutrition talk when it comes up to the building up to the marathon, and what should they be looking out, and more importantly, what advice should they be avoiding? Because I've seen a lot of bad stuff online as well, but what should they be looking out for when they're fueling the race?
Fueling the race itself. God, it's been a long time since I've actually been working with like endurance athletes as such, but just going back to even my own personal experience.
Well, it didn't start today with me and Sean anyway.
I think, again, going back to what's the fuel source you're using, right? So with marathons, obviously, a large part of that is going to depend on your carbohydrate intake. Every kind of 20 minutes, every 5K, getting in your kind of 20 to 30 grams of carbohydrates wherein if you can. Starting early in the race rather than too late into the race even like if you're like, I'm grand, I'm fresh legs after 5K, still making sure that you're staying attentive to the plan. It will definitely save you miles and time at the end. So starting early, again, working up to that 20 to 30 grams of carbohydrates, every kind of 5K as such will be a good kind of goal, I would be saying, to reach. You're trying to get to about 60 grams per hour. So depending on your finish time, and obviously if you're looking for a quicker or faster finish time, that will be about, it could even go up to 75 to 90 grams per hour there as well. Looking at, again, your pre-race nutrition, so practicing the meal you're going to be consuming 3 to 4 hours ahead of that as well is really, really important. I know if you're traveling for a marathon, scoping out the local restaurants, scoping out, I guess, the local supermarkets, I would always try and advocate for preparing your own pre-race meal rather than going out for it, because of safety, food safety. You don't want to be getting food poisoning in the middle of your race. Caffeine as well. Caffeine takes about 60 minutes to get into your bloodstream. So you want to time it accordingly, right? If you're using gum, it's a lot quicker. Caffeine gum takes about 20 minutes. So you have to chew for about 5 minutes. Can be quite good in a marathon as well, because you're getting the fluid in your mouth. Your mouth can get quite dry when you're running for that long as well. So that kind of keeps your saliva production going. But caffeine gum, about 20 minutes to get into the bloodstream. Caffeine tablets, caffeine gels, caffeine drinks, about 60 minutes. Okay, so timing that
1 hour.
accordingly. So, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So 1 hour beforehand. So if you're thinking, okay, if you've practiced your long runs and you can feel the legs going a little bit after a certain length of time, try and work 60 minutes back from that and look at getting your caffeine in then. But a large part of that will come down to your fueling as well. If you're getting very, very tired beyond what you'd expect to be, your heart rate's starting to climb, making sure that you've practiced your fueling and tried that out in your long runs as well. Recovery as well, just 30 minutes after your long run, say in your training or any training that you're doing, kind of key sessions around, within that 30-minute post finishing, making sure that you're getting in a source of carbohydrates and a source of protein. Okay, speeds up your recovery processes. And also the carbohydrates within that 30 minutes are absorbed much quicker than if you delayed them, right? So you kind of there's a science behind it. It's your non-insulin dependent pathway of glucose absorption. So the quicker you can get it in, the better your recovery is going to be.
Leah, is that there used to be an old bodybuilding thing, going back to those old magazines, where that was the case for protein, a 30-minute anabolic window. And then I was like, no, it's not a thing. And then it is a thing. Like everything in nutrition, or what you hear online goes in waves. Is that the same for protein, or is it just carbs?
It's carbs, really. Okay. But carbs and protein digested together, again, the two of them both support recovery. So if you're doing one, why not do both? Right?
Yeah.
In terms of lean mass retention, if you're trying to go through gaining mass as well, it's basically down to the amount of protein that you've taken throughout your day as such, right? And trying to space it throughout the day, not consuming it all in the one go, tends to show better results. There was a paper produced last year that said it doesn't make that much of a difference, but what I will be saying is trying to space your meals evenly. If you're eating every 3 to 4 hours, maintaining your glucose levels at an optimal range, and then getting your key sessions in and recovering well, then I wouldn't be trying to go down any kind of niche routes as such, other than that 30 minutes post-training, getting the carbohydrates in to refuel. Yeah.
Speaking of those niche routes, and I'm kind of stuck on time. This is on my end here. So when you go on you open the phone, you see Instagram, you're scrolling through and you're seeing all these, because it's your field, so I'm assuming you'd see a lot of different nutrition stuff online. Is there anything in particular, as I say this, that pops out that just drives you up the wall, that you keep hearing this message on nutrition or fueling, or someone in the supermarket saying you shouldn't eat this, it's not a bad thing, or you should have a keto diet, and I'm naming off different things, give you an out on it, but is there something that you're like, God damn it, this has to stop?
There is, obviously, like I say, I go back to trying to not fear food, work on your relationship with food, and this obsession with clean foods and reading labels in the supermarket. I'm all about being informed. I'm all about being educated. But to the extent where it's actually causing disordered eating or obsession, I will be eating disorders are on the rise as it is. I don't think there's any need to try and bring that into the conversation around nutrition as such and healthful nutrition. So that is one thing I would keep in mind. The other is like fasting. So not picking on intermittent fasting whatsoever, but again, the context in and around female, hormonal function and health, the rise in red S, like low energy availability, the impact of the amount of people who are now taking up running, and then all these little things around kind of getting obsessed over labels and skipping meals or, fasting as well. And then this influx of increasing cases with low energy availability and red S symptoms as well. So that would be, I'd be trying to be, balanced in my answer to that question. But not great obsession and just know yourself as an individual athlete, I would say.
Just when it comes to ingredients and stuff on products, I hear, or I read, like, one side of it is this is really bad for you. It can do X, Y, and Z, whatever. But then the other side is that you would have to have like 100 packets of that every day for like 6 to 8 months to even have any sort of impact on you. Like the way percentages of like 1%, 2% seems like a lot, but it's a percentage increase, but it's so minuscule. Is that what's happening here? People read a study, and like people like myself that I only did one module on, but I still wouldn't be able to properly read a scientific study, and they see one thing out of it and they're taken out of context. Is that what's happening here with some of these nutrition labels?
I think the science is still evolving in this space. I think that maybe we're jumping on the train a little bit too early.
Right.
There are so many other things in our life that we do that probably aren't good for our health. And then we get honed in on one thing that we can control. And that's when it becomes disordered. I would focus on, rather than taking things out, limiting them or causing fear, I'd focus on the things that we know we can add in, more fiber, more healthy, fruit, veg, increase our hydration, eat regularly. Like, I know it sounds so boring, but we're devils for like honing in on one small controllable factor, that actually breeds disordered relationships with food. And then we're going to be, anyway, I'm going into kind of the food policy end of things, but I just, that there's so much we still aren't doing at the basic level that we could focus on and that we reap the health benefits from, in the long term.
Final question, Leah. You have your Instagram. There's been a mistake with Instagram, and all of a sudden your account is going to be the first thing that pops up when everyone in the world opens up their Instagram, and you've got one message to put out there. Putting a lot of pressure on you right now. This could
went
turn
wrong.
the whole
She did
future
a
of
communications degree.
What would be that because your Instagram is phenomenal. You've got so many stuff we didn't even touch on the podcast. You go so much more in depth and stuff. It's a lot of great info on that page that I got a lot from personally. What would be your one post that you had to post only one more thing about? What would it be?
Oh God, John, that's awful.
You really did peak with that question earlier.
Yeah, I did. Look, I'm not used to being so high up, but I had to bring myself right way down and end the podcast on that note, Leah.
I think you should take this one, Sean. Given the question you asked earlier, this is your chance. One last thing. Oh, that's so hard because nutrition keeps changing year on year.
Let's put some brackets on it. People who are still in that new year, new me, and they're about to go on their journey. They may be taking up running. They may be getting involved and starting to move more.
It's a great question, Eric.
Yeah.
Thanks, Sean. You're very good to me.
I would focus on your, like I say, your again, the periodization of your week. So again, I'm going to sound so boring, keep going over the same ground, but like color code your week. It's exact same as what's on my page. I've got red meals, orange meals, and green meals, like a traffic light system, right? Mm-hmm. Your red meals are your low carb meals. Your amber meals, your orange meals are your moderate carb meals, and then your green meals are your high carb meals, your fueling meals. Look at your week. Look at your busy days, right? Fuel those busy days. Recovery days, go back to that red stop sign, right? And reduce the amount of energy in them. If you can periodize your nutrition like that, you're aligning your lifestyle with your metabolic needs, and it keeps everything checked and everything in balance. So that's it. That's my one last post I would give.
And on that note, Leah, where can people get in touch, and where is your Instagram?
Yeah, I'm Haley Nutrition on Instagram, and sure, yeah, that's kind of just my primary mechanism. I'm on LinkedIn as well, Leah Headon, so it's Headon, head on basically. But yeah, Leah Headon on LinkedIn if anybody wants to connect.
That's what Google told me. On that note, thank you very much for this episode. That is it for this week's episode of the Any Given Monday podcast. For myself, Leah, and Eric. Take care.
Thanks.